The catch is made by DJ Moore, still going across midfield, inside the 40, the 30.
This is Desmond Johnson on the Bleav and Carolina Panthers podcast, here on the Bleav Podcast Network, the #1 podcast network for professionals. Do you Bleav? If you enjoy the show, please subscribe and rate the show on iTunes. We're available in your favorite directories: iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, Stitcher, Luminary, and TuneIn. You can also find us at Bleav.com and at Bleav Podcast on Twitter. And welcome into a brand new edition of the Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. Desmond Johnson, Sports Illustrated, Schuyler, Callihan, Panthers all-time leading rusher Jonathan Stewart in the house early on a Monday morning for you to get you caught up on all the stuff that happened over the weekend in the NFL Divisional Round. It's an open Mailbag Monday. It's Tell Them Why You're Mad. We got a whole lot of stuff to get to here, including whatever that was at the end of that Dallas-San Francisco game. Some kind of, I don't know what it might be. Somebody's reason why they're mad today. So we'll get into all that. Again, open Mailbag. You can reach us here at youtube.com/@Tobacco Road Sports Radio. If you want to comment on the show while we're in here, you got a hot take, comment on what you saw this weekend, you can drop it here. We'll get you there. Also, you can watch us on the Facebook watch page for Tobacco Road Sports Radio as well. The audio of this podcast will be available a little bit later on today. Sorry, I'm out of breath. I just ran from here to like 10 feet away in my kitchen to get a water and came back in here. And I'm like, it's been that kind of Monday already. Gentlemen, what's going on with y'all? How y'all doing?
Good, man. Sound like you need to go on a jog every Monday.
I'm like, all
that
my
car, get
heavy.
get your cardio up, man.
Man, I hit some stairs. I gotta make it happen today. But before we get into everything else, a word from our friends over at Bet Online. Bet Online remains your #1 source for all your sports betting this season. Everything from NFL and bowl season to esports. You'll always find the latest odds, team matchup info, player news, and game trends at Bet Online. Bet Online features live betting, free contests, and live scores for almost any sport or game imaginable. We're the fastest and easiest way to bet on all your favorite leagues and events. Head to betonline.ag to join and receive your 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. Make sure to use the promo code Bleav, BLEAV, to receive your rewards. Bet Online, where the game starts. And of course, we'll have Panther news from this week. Since the last time you saw us, Panthers were supposed to interview Sean Payton on Friday. Of course, due to the untimely death of the Charlotte FC soccer player late last week, David Tepper and company canceled that appointment, supposedly moved it to today. So they're supposed to be meeting with Sean Payton today in Manhattan. Schuyler, can you give us the latest on the Panthers coaching search in terms of who has actually completed interviews since the last time we were on? Because I know there's been a lot of names floating around it, but I think last time we were on, there was only like 4 or 5 that had actually interviewed. And I know they had interviews set with I think Ken Dorsey and some others this past weekend. Who all came through and who's all officially interviewed now up to this point?
So they met virtually with Ken Dorsey, and they interviewed Mike Kafka yesterday, the Giants offensive coordinator. So those 2 are in the book. Sean Payton's supposed to be today, possibly tomorrow. Is like a tentatively agreed to sometime either today or tomorrow. So I don't know if that ever got ironed out about what day that's going to be, but Sean Payton will be within the next 48 hours at some point. So after that, I don't really know where they're going to look at, because it doesn't seem like D'Amico Ryans is going to schedule anything with Carolina. Seems like he probably wants that Houston job, and I think Houston wants him to take that job too. So after that, I would assume we probably either get into a second round of interviews, or maybe they know who their guy is at that point. So I think we're about up to 7 guys now. You got Shane Steichen, Frank Reich, Jim Caldwell, Steve Wilkes, Ejiro Evero, Mike Kafka, Sean Payton, and Ken Dorsey. So 7 or 8 guys.
So out of those guys, and I'm just now seeing actually from Sports Illustrated that this just dropped like 15 minutes ago, that Sean Payton reportedly has earned a second interview with the Broncos. Per Jeff Duncan of the New Orleans Times became, I can't even pronounce that, the New Orleans Times. He is scheduled for Wednesday. He had his first interview with Denver on January 17th. They've also interviewed Dan Quinn, who I don't think we've interviewed or even asked for, I don't think. Raheem Morris from the Rams, D'Amico Ryans, Jim Caldwell, David Shaw, Jim Harbaugh, but he withdrew as he announced he was going to stay with Michigan. I got a question here for the panel. How likely is it after what we saw yesterday in the NFC divisional game between Dallas and San Francisco? How likely is it that Sean Payton is the coach of the Dallas Cowboys next year?
0%. And
no?
It's crazy I say that because you would think that the ties would be there because Jerry Jones has wanted Sean Payton for years. And
Right.
Sean Payton loves Dallas, Texas. He coached there earlier in his career. So it makes sense. But I for whatever reason, they're sticking with Mike McCarthy. Jerry Jones came out and said that yesterday that his job is safe. So, and Jerry's a pretty upfront guy. I think if there was any type of, going back and forth on it, I think he would have said something like that.
Stu, what are your thoughts on that?
Man, look, everything has an expiration date. And more importantly, like the human life, like we're talking about Jerry Jones.
Yeah.
Like,
I don't want to tippy toe around it. Let's just get in it.
Like, the Dallas Cowboys used to be America's team. It's not America's team. It's not. And Jerry Jones feels that. He's running out of time. I know what he said yesterday. Mike McCarthy, he's safe. Everything's good. Whoop-de-whoop. But, and that might be true because, getting a whole new coaching staff in there right now isn't really going to help your time either. But I know whose time is running out. Dak Prescott. We'll get to him later.
Yeah, we're gonna talk. Yeah,
we'll get to him later. But Sean Payton, if this was a time to do a coaching change and have something like instant, I think this would be this type of transition or transaction per se. That could be had. Sean Payton, I feel like demands accountability, which is what this team or really what the offense lacks. It lacks accountability. I mean, we saw it last night. Like the tight end. Come on now. It's basic. It's basic fundamentals. Like you have to have some type of like sense of urgency. If you don't have the sense of urgency, it's because somewhere along the line in your preparation, someone's not holding you accountable in practice and meetings. I mean, these are things that we talk about every Saturday. What are the things? The 2-minute drill. What are we doing when there's 15 seconds left on the clock? What are we doing when it's 2 minutes? Like punt special teams. Be ready on the sideline. Get your ass out there. Line up. Punt the ball fast so we can get the ball back. Like there's a lot of fundamental things that just happen in front of the nation's eyes.
Millions. That had to be a million.
That were just like, wait a minute, this isn't happening. Is this what they're doing?
To 18 seconds on that punt. Like,
yeah, let me get to I'm mad about this.
Let me
tell you about this.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
Let's go.
All right, Dak Prescott, you get sacked. Hey, coach, have your punt team, your special teams unit already ready because clearly this is not a good situation that's about to happen right now. Like the offense is not grooving and moving. So you need to have your special teams unit ready to be deployed. First of all, get them out there and be instant with your punt, please. They're out there just lollygagging, just walking around, just like, oh, we got plenty of time. No, you don't have time. You wasted 40 seconds. It was 2 minutes and 45 seconds. And my man caught the ball at 2 minutes and 5 seconds. That's 40 seconds, dog.
Yeah.
You wasted 40 seconds. That 40 seconds at the end of the game, if you take that 40 seconds at the end of the game that they had, that's a minute and 30 seconds? I don't know. Like
it's a lot more than they had.
It's a lot more than what they had.
You got more things to play with.
Like, I just don't understand like what went wrong there. And special teams unit didn't obviously know that they needed to be prepared and be urgent about the matter of punting the ball. So that's why I'm mad. Time management for Mike McCarthy, like, that's on you, bud. And
Yo, I'm
then,
gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son.
and then as far as Dak Prescott, after Schultz gets pushed out of bounds and doesn't have the awareness to turn his shoulders upfield, Dak Prescott
Oh yeah.
and Mike McCarthy, whatever page they're on, clearly they were on the same page. Oh, let's run another play. No, hey, wait a minute, stop! Everyone, stop! Spike the ball. let's not just run any play.
It's been 2 years of this.
Let's regroup.
Like,
Let's regroup.
it feels like anytime we talk about clock management, we're talking about Mike McCarthy and the Cowboys the past 2 years. Like, hell, the game last year between the 49ers and the Cowboys in the wild card round. Remember how that ended with them having to run up to the ball and the whole thing with the referee and not knowing and all that stuff? It just, when Tony Pollard got hurt, I was like, okay, that's probably going to be it. Because he was the one dude that 49ers didn't really have an answer for. Like, he was like their explosive guy. I don't know what they're doing. I'm trying to remember why they traded Amari Cooper. Like, why did Amari Cooper get traded? Because they had already signed him to the money, right?
They traded him for a bag of chips, and they didn't want to commit to him because he was going to demand a lot of money. But here's the thing. CeeDee Lamb is not a number one receiver. He's a very, very good number two. But he's not your go-to guy that's going to just dominate a corner all game long. Like, you got to have somebody go with him.
Shout out to the 49ers because, well, first of all, shout out to the Dallas defense because before we pile on to Dallas and what they did wrong on offense, the Dallas defense came to play yesterday, and I wasn't expecting that. And they played really well. They stopped their boy CMC for the most part, kept him under control. They kind of kept the 49ers offense under control until third, fourth quarter. The 49ers kind of started leaning on them a little bit and started breaking some runs. But everything kind of broke the way it was supposed to, with the exception of that Bengals-Bills game in Buffalo. And we're going to get to that in a bit too, because I posed this question to you guys off camera before we started. Is Joe Burrow the number one quarterback in the NFL right now? And it's getting hard to argue that he's not. He might not be the most talented. That's still probably Pat Mahomes, especially after what we saw on Saturday. Don't make no sense, like, what this kid does. But in terms of what you want in a quarterback, like right now, that can do everything, and it seems like he always makes the right play. He always hits the right guy. He always hits the dude open. He's got the arm. He's got the size. He's got the wheels. He's smart. He's coachable. And he's got some kind of like Joe Montana swagger thing going on right now.
He's got an aura.
Yeah.
He's got the X factor.
He's
like,
man, you know how we used to talk about the Bengals? I know you too. Like the Bengals, like nobody
2 years ago, the Bengals. 2 years ago, the Bengals, I think, won one game.
Yeah, that's how they got him. That's how they got Burrow. They got number one pick overall, and now look at the franchise. Like, one dude turned that around.
Jerry Jones needs a guy like that.
Yeah. So let's now. Well, do you want to stick here with tell them why you're mad? Because Schuyler, you were mad about something like 2 days ago. You said that you were ready to go ahead and go. Do you want to go ahead and pop that out, or
I mean, how many weeks have I come on and said, like, I don't even know what I'm mad about?
Yeah.
This week I've got a whole list.
Whoa.
That I'm mad about.
My God.
I'm not going to go through
I'll tell you why we mad, son.
I'm here for the pettiness. Let's do this.
I'm not going to go through all of it. And what I texted you guys, I'll save that for another week because that's kind of an evergreen thing. But I don't know. Have you guys seen this? I actually just stumbled across this before we hopped on here about this Damar Hamlin conspiracy theory that he's supposedly not alive and all this stuff. That is the biggest BS.
What? What?
Because
the
the Bills riding him in the golf cart and he had his hood up and didn't want to be seen going into the locker room. I mean, like, come on. Like, number one, that is just extremely disrespectful.
Yeah, whoever threw that out there is disrespectful to life,
but his family too,
and his family.
No, that's Twitter, man.
His
Twitter
friends,
is cesspool right now for that kind of stuff. I saw the COVID stuff.
That's disgusting.
when it happened, I
Okay.
saw the COVID vaccine stuff that was on Twitter. People were trying to say, "Oh, it happened because he got vaccinated or whatever." Because there's a segment
Yeah,
out there
that
that's
whole
saying,
thing
yeah,
too
that
is
whole thing. I
disgusting.
was like,
as
come
well.
on, man, like y'all are really reaching. But no, I haven't heard that they just showed the man on TV. They showed the man on
Yeah,
TV during the game.
I mean,
Oh, what? Was that not him?
People,
Like, is that what we were-
listen, Schuyler, people are bored, and
exactly.
we are living in a world right now where people are just trying to be relevant,
Mhm.
and that ain't it.
You know what it really is. People, Twitter warriors, people with Twitter fingers. I'm seeing the sentiment where people think they're smarter than they actually are because they have so much access to information. But the problem is they were never taught how to weed out the fake or the
Right.
BS or what's not real.
The good,
Yeah,
the right information.
right. They get the information and they're like, "Oh, I got to be the first one to tell it."
If it aligns with what they
wrong.
believe in, if they believe, no matter the side, if it aligns in what you believe in your bubble, then you're gonna roll with it. And there's no fact checking really anymore. So it's kind of nuts whenever I see like storylines from like sports or whatever come out. That's why honestly, when people have asked me about the coaching search with the Panthers or what's up with Steve Wilkes, who, to be honest, with Schuyler rattling off that list of names, I think Wilkes is at the front of all this right now, especially if the Payton thing doesn't really go through, which I never really thought it would. But all the reporters that are out there saying, this source said such and such, Sean Payton really likes Carolina, and like if it didn't come from like the folks I know, Schuyler, Joe Person, like dudes that I know have been following the Panthers and are actually
Or Shannon Sharp.
Yeah,
Shannon Sharp say it's the truth.
Shannon, look, I thought Shannon was about to get into a fight with Ja Morant's dad the other night, but they made up. They made up for the game.
He would have whooped his behind too.
That was Memphis's players' fault. They were the ones yelling at Shannon in the crowd. I saw the whole. I was like, man, this sports is crazy right now. Sports is nuts. I've got to tell them why you're mad, but I know I always had the rules. Got to be football related. I'm gonna change that slightly if it's a rivalry. If it's a rivalry, it's excused.
Man, how you gonna change the rules and you made up the rules?
That's how. that's how. So the reason
I'm
why
gonna tell you why we mad. I'm gonna tell
I
you why
wouldn't
we
even
mad.
brought this up, but I woke up Sunday morning and got on Twitter, which was mistake number one right there, and realized that there is an entire segment of NC State fans that feel like Leaky Black, 5th-year senior forward, Carolina, best defender, was malicious and trying to hurt Terquavion Smith. If you haven't seen this, Terquavion Smith took a hard foul from Leaky, landed basically like on his tailbone back area. They had to put him on a stretcher, cart him out. And State fans are like, the Carolina fans are booing him on the stretcher and all this other stuff. And I'm like, are we just going to rewrite history? Like, I mean, we're watching this too. Like all that, none of that happened. But every year the State fans come out with the whole referee, everyone's out against us. Everybody hates NC State. You know why? Because you do stuff like this. That's why everybody hates you, NC State. That's why you're the little brother to Carolina and Duke, and to some extent Wake Forest at this point, where you're just screaming for attention. It wasn't malicious. Like, it wasn't. The dude was at a bar 3 hours later after checking out in the hospital. They got pictures of it all over the place on Twitter. So it's like, how can you sit here and say all this bad stuff about a kid that's never done anything wrong like that, while the kid that got hurt was released from the hospital within 2 hours of him going, and it's fine. So it's like, I don't get NC State and the vitriol that they have for Carolina. I do get it, because State hasn't won anything since like 1989 or something. But
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad. I'm gonna tell you why we mad.
I don't like this whole like just pretending like things didn't happen. Like, that's basically what I had to go through this weekend with these State fans. And then I started watching the conference championship games on Sunday, and the Bengals Bills game. Let's just go ahead and get into them real quick. The Bengals Bills game was a treat. If you felt like Buffalo was getting more credit than they deserved this year, and it felt like they got exposed, I'd been comparing this Bills team to the Panthers. Like, the Bills are what we had hoped the Panthers were going to continue to be after 2015, like 16, 17, 18, like what they've done. I thought that the Bills were that. I was wrong. That Bills team is not what we thought the Panthers were going to be after 2015, because they have zero run game. They cannot run the football. And it makes no sense because they're in Buffalo. You would think they would choose to run the football. They can't run the ball. Like, it felt like going into that game that Josh Allen was their best runner. And if they couldn't throw the ball, they were going to be in trouble. Plus, Joe Burrow came in hot to begin with, and they're the hottest team in the AFC. And it was just a recipe for disaster. Like, how surprised were you that the Bengals came in and did what they, because it was never in doubt from beginning to end. Like, how surprised were you at that?
I mean, Schuyler, you go ahead.
I mean, I was pretty shocked. I mean, I thought it was going to be a coin flip. Just basically whoever had the ball last was kind of going to win, kind of like last year between Buffalo and Kansas City. But, boy, I was wrong. I mean, Cincinnati just dialed up a really good game plan, and this is one of the 15 things I've written down as to why I'm mad, and that's why in the hell does Lou Anarumo not have a head coaching interview anywhere? Why does Leslie Frazier not have a head coaching interview anywhere? And I know Tony Romo brought that up like 15 times during the game, but I've been saying it for weeks. I don't know if I ever mentioned it on here, but like Leslie Frazier should have been a head coach 2 years ago, probably.
Yeah.
And I don't understand it.
Well, I can tell you why. Tell you why, but we're gonna get into it.
We kind of know why, but yeah.
they tired of us. That's all. Hey.
But actually, before we go forward, you mentioned DeMeco Ryans earlier in Houston. Yeah. I would think DeMeco would not want to go to Houston based off of their track record the past 3 or 4 head coaches they've had.
You might know. You want to know who might be in Houston? Dak Prescott.
And just take that suitcase right on up the street. They just.
But I mean, if you think about it, DeMeco played for the Texans. He was a team captain for them for years. He loves Houston. Like,
that's true.
It makes sense. Number one. Number two. I mean, you're going to have your choosing a quarterback in the draft. Probably going to get Bryce Young, and then you have, I think, the 3rd or 4th most cap space. When I look at Houston, I don't look at it as a dumpster fire as many other people do. Like, I think there's a couple other teams that are worse situations than Houston. The only reason I say that is because look at what Jacksonville did after they drafted Trevor Lawrence. Now, yeah, last year was awful, but I mean, they had Urban Meyer.
Yeah, he was out there kicking punters on the field and stuff. Yeah.
As soon as they got rid of Urban Meyer, they started doing the right things. They got the right coach in there, Doug Peterson. They spent money in free agency. They drafted well. And I think they had the 2nd or 3rd most cap space last year. But if you go out and spend it, then you're going to turn your fortunes around pretty quickly. And I think that's what Houston can do if they draft the right guy at number 2 and spend their money in free agency.
Speaking of the Jaguars are set up nice going forward. They're in a division that's going to be fairly wide open, AFC South. That's another guy, Trevor Lawrence. And that's my thing, too. Everyone asking for us to trade up in the draft. If there was a Trevor Lawrence or a Joe Burrow or a Cam Newton or someone there, there's just no one there that I'm just like consensus number 1 generational change your franchise in 24 months type dude. I don't see that guy in this draft. But Trevor Lawrence was one of those dudes. We knew he was that guy as soon as he showed up at Clemson. Like, we knew that before he was there. Like, we've known Trevor Lawrence for like 6 years now. And that was the first time he's ever lost on a Saturday in his career. And the gods were trying to give it to him. Pat Mahomes, the high ankle sprain, had no business even being back out there. He's playing. This dude did a jump pass off of a ankle sprain for a touchdown.
Pretty much. Listen to me. You want to know how hard it is to play with a high ankle sprain? It's like playing with a nub.
Yeah,
like
it looked like it. You might
as well have a nub that just you don't have none of. You don't have none of this.
What's the thing, Charles?
This don't work. This don't work. It's just you just here.
Didn't Charles Barkley say something like, it's women complain about being pregnant, but they ain't never played basketball on a sprained ankle?
Hey, I don't know what he's talking about right there. Hey, I'd rather take a sprained ankle than whatever that pregnancy.
And Pat, man, Pat,
I don't want to be pregnant. I'd rather have the ankle sprain, fella.
Pat Mahomes is mobile. That's part of his game. His is like I was talking to my nephew was over here watching the game with me, and I was like, I think I finally landed on Pat Mahomes is the Steph Curry of the NFL. You know, they both do things that you're not supposed to do, like in a game, but they make it look so easy. It makes it look like anybody can do it, but in actuality, no one can. Like, no one can do it exactly. Like, no one can come down and hit a 3 2 steps past the half court line in a second quarter of a game like it's nothing, and then turn around and start running back before it goes in. That's Steph.
Yeah.
That's Pat Mahomes is throwing no look passes in a football game. Like, what are we? What's
like
happening?
Going back to the Joe Burrow being the best, this just clicked. I am right now saying Joe Burrow is the best quarterback in the NFL. Period. Joe Burrow does things that you can question, like, wow, that was unique.
Mm-hmm.
But the one thing that you can always go into a game with is you know what to expect out of your quarterback.
Yes.
Yesterday, they knew what they were going to get out of Joe Burrow. Joe is cool, calm, collected. He ain't worried about a darn thing.
Love it.
And the way he steps into the pocket, his mechanics, everything about him is just, there's no hesitation, there's no doubt. Even when he does make a mistake, it's almost like, oh well, like, move on. Like,
or somebody else.
I'll figure it out later.
It bounced off the wide receiver or something like that.
Or yeah, like, oh, it was the
numbers.
air. It was the air. The air did that. but to that point, because when you said no look, like Patrick Mahomes, no look passes, like, dang, where'd that come from? Joe Burrow be doing the same thing. Okay, the sidearms and all this stuff, like they do it. I'm just telling you, they do it. We just glorify Patrick Mahomes because he's the first to do it.
And that's kind of why I'm comparing him to Steph, because after Steph, there's become Steph clones like a Trae Young or whoever they try to compare to him. But Steph has changed the game. Like I call a lot of high school basketball and stuff like that. It's all outside, inside now. It used to be inside out, but you got kids out here jacking 28-foot 3-footer or 3-pointers or whatever. That's from the Steph effect. And I think Pat Mahomes is having the same effect the way kids in high school play football, in terms of, you're taught not to throw across your chest, not to throw all the way across the field, or, you're taught not to be so loose with the ball or take these chances. And they're starting to do it. But again, there's only one Pat Mahomes. So, I mean, I landed on that comparison this weekend. I'm like, I feel comfortable with calling him the football version of Steph Curry. But the Chiefs, I don't know how this dude's supposed to be 100% in 6 days or whatever on a high ankle sprain, but they got
he'll do it.
They got matter when you got Henny.
We're gonna call all he needs next week is a patch on his eye, and he'll be a pirate. Okay, he gonna be coming in there with that nub.
I want to know what that thing looks like today, because that was Saturday night. What's that angle look like today?
Yeah.
That thing's like, it's just like, so I don't know. We'll see. And then
it's very hard to play with that. He gutted that out. Like he's a dog for that. I mean,
another thing too, I didn't even bother to watch the game because I knew it was going to be like that probably. Even though I picked all the road teams, for some reason only one of them actually panned it out. Flowers to Jalen Hurts and the Philadelphia Eagles. I mean, they just beating the brakes off the Giants. Like, the Giants were invited to a party they weren't supposed to be at, and the Eagles are the ones that were told to go tell them. So, hey,
hey, yo, Jalen, hey, yo, D-line, Jalen and D-line. Hey, go tell them.
Yeah,
they ain't even supposed to be here.
They
don't get out. They don't get out. Like, tell them once, but if you have to tell them twice. I need you to beat that behind.
Yep. And that's literally Daniel Jones, and then was like, we can stay here all we want to. We earned the right. Nah, bro. This is what big boys are now.
Out of here.
Yeah, and see y'all next year.
How many sacks did they have this year? The Philadelphia Eagles? Like 60 plus?
Something. They're the second ranked defense behind the 49ers. So we've got this situation where you got the number 1 ranked defense versus the number 2 ranked defense in the NFC Championship game. Eagles, 49ers. And then you've got probably the 2 best quarterbacks in the league over in the AFC Championship game. Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes, Chiefs, Bengals. And I don't know how the NFL does this, but like, they knew Cowboys 49ers was going to be the marquee on Sunday. So they had that for the primetime 6:30 game. They had it set for that before they even knew what the teams were. And then they had it set. The AFC Championship game was going to be the night game for Sunday. And I guess any combination, Josh Allen, Pat Mahomes, Trevor, whatever, would have been fine. But getting Mahomes versus your boy Burrow in that primetime game, it just sets it up where I think we got the 4 best teams in the league left. Eagles, 49ers, Bengals.
Really did.
I mean, I think that's right. I think that actually the cream rose to the top. I mean, is there a team that should be here that ain't? I mean, I guess it would have been the Bills, but
and I saw this too on Twitter. As somebody, and we talked about the college football playoff, but that the 4 teams remaining of this year's playoffs, 3 of them were in it last year.
right.
So all those people talking about, college football playoff shouldn't expand. Well, the NFL has a lot more teams in it and still got to the same thing anyway. So
Yeah, and those 7th seed teams probably didn't have any business being in there this year. The 8-9 squad, Tampa, even though they won the division. Tampa.
All that does is just give everybody more money.
right.
Yeah.
What I am thankful for, though, is that Joe Burrow and Pat Mahomes are both in the same conference, because that could be a thing where it's just them 2 duking it out for Super Bowls year after year after year. And that may get old. It might be fun for a while, but I think to see somebody else in there, that's pretty cool. Now,
It gives me hope as a Panther fan because I feel like we're a quarterback away and a couple little pieces here and there to contend in the NFC.
Who in the NFC do you like in terms of quarterbacks? Are you like, damn, like that's a dude that we don't want to run into?
Hurts. Maybe Hurts healthy. That's probably it so far. And
But
whoever
even
is
then,
playing
like,
quarterback for the 49ers.
Even then,
Yeah,
like
the
Jalen
49ers defense.
Hurts is not a top 5 quarterback. Like, you're not getting a Joe Burrow or Josh Allen or Patrick Mahomes when you play Jalen Hurts. He's a good quarterback, but there's a huge drop off between those guys and like the Jalen Hurts of the world.
Hell, you didn't even mention guys like Lamar Jackson. Like, I mean, these dudes are all under the age of 28, and like every
conference.
They're all in the same. Justin Herbert.
Herbert.
Tua started out strong earlier this year before the concussions or whatnot. I mean, it's pretty loaded in the AFC. It's going to be trouble getting out of there for the next couple of years. In the NFC, though, you're right. I mean, other than Hurts and who am I thinking? It's like all the old quarterbacks are in the NFC. Geno Smith. I mean, it just doesn't have the same pop.
Doesn't have that same pop, that same ring.
Pizzazz of
Matthew Stafford.
Yeah, Matthew Stafford. I thought he was going to retire.
Brock Purdy.
Talking earlier. Brock Purdy. We say all this. Brock Purdy might be the next Tom Brady.
Yeah,
in terms of winning the Super Bowl. He's only started 7 games or 6 games or whatever it's been so far. Paul Mancini, super fan, Bleav in Panther, says NFC South is wide open for 2023. Who is the coach going to be?
Wilkes.
I think it's going to be Wilkes. I do. I think it's we've been on this for 2 months now. I felt like it was always going to be Wilkes, and they were just doing their due diligence, interviewing all these folks. Joe Person told us last week they interviewed like 20 people before they landed on Scott Fitterer last year. So I mean, interview everybody, but as the list starts to kind of filter out and you start looking at who to bring in, I think the best case scenario would be Steve Wilkes as head coach, Frank Wright as offensive coordinator, and you keep Al Holcomb as defensive coordinator, and you go with that. And if it works, fantastic. David Tepper, you'll look like a savior to the city of Charlotte. If it doesn't work, then you blow it up. And I mean, these same candidates there's always going to be a young, hot offensive coordinator out there that everybody wants to interview, but not everybody's Brian Daboll. Not everybody is these dudes that have shown that they can do more than just draw up plays on a board. And I don't know if a guy like Ken Dorsey is ready to just lead a whole team. Just watch what happened in that Bills game. I
mean, and you think about it, like, yes, it would be kind of a neat thing to see Ken Dorsey full circle moment, but like, he's only been the coordinator for this season only. And before that, he was a quarterback's coach for years. But to me, like, you've got to have more experience. And I mean, let's face it, Josh Allen was not very good down the stretch this year. I mean, he was getting a little turnover prone. So like and again, when you don't have a rushing attack, that's a big problem. So like, I think you can take Ken Dorsey out of this situation. Mike Kafka, I still think the world of him because, I mean, he's only 35 years old, and you look at his resume, first full year that Patrick Mahomes was a starting quarterback, he helped him. And then he just helped Daniel Jones to his best career or his best season ever to make or break year. So, like, I think the world of him, but I still think he's too young. He's not ready. Like, for me, I think it's Sean Payton, Steve Wilks or Shane Steichen. And I don't think Sean Payton's coming to Carolina. I just don't think they're going to be willing to part with the draft capital that it's going to take to get Sean Payton, number one. And number two, I think Denver's, like you guys have been talking about, is probably going to be able to do more of what Sean Payton wants to do. But, I mean, I think it's going to come down to Shane Steichen and Steve Wilks. And I don't really know that it could be a bad thing either way.
See, and even with that, it's like, are you going to bring in an outsider like you just did after all these players have voiced their love?
It's tough.
It's weird. Willie Smith, super fan for Bleav in Panthers. Thanks, Willie. Says, has Wilks received any coaching interest outside of the Panthers? I am Team Wilks. I mentioned that a couple of weeks ago, that to me, that was almost like a telltale that he hadn't interviewed any place else and nobody else had requested him. What does that mean, like, to you, Schuyler, when you're reporting on this stuff? Because to me, it felt like either he's been told you're the front runner, so he's not out there looking for something else, or he just doesn't want anything else, which would be weird for Wilks to not want to prove that he could be a head coach someplace else. I know Al Holcomb interviewed, I think, the DC for the Falcons job this past week. So he's keeping his options out there. But
again, you got to think, when you fire a coach, I don't think a lot of fans expect you as an owner to go and look at another team that fired their coach and say, let's get their interim head coach. I don't care how good of a job he did. And again, with Steve Wilks, he had familiarity here. He knew what it took to win in this organization. And I mean, when you take that and I mean, especially what they did, it wasn't very sexy, right? I mean, it was play defense, run the ball 40 times. And that's not a splashy type of hire compared to a Shane Steichen or even an Youre Everose, basically a younger version of Steve Wilks. Maybe a little bit more creative defensively, but like, it's just not going to move the needle for a lot of these other teams. Now, will it move the needle for Carolina? Absolutely. Again, because he gets the culture, he gets what it takes to win. But it's a different situation when you look elsewhere.
See, I'm a little mad about
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad, son. I'm gonna tell you why we
the
mad,
perception that Wilks is a conservative coach because of how they ran the offense this past year. He didn't have a quarterback.
He didn't have a choice.
Right.
He didn't have a quarterback. What was he supposed to do? You know,
Yeah.
he didn't get Sam Darnold till what, like week 12, 13, something like that. Like he had Baker Mayfield with like the worst QBR in the league for most of the year. PJ Walker, who they just never really let throw the ball down the field. And then Sam Darnold, who they kind of let start throwing the ball towards the end. But he never had a competent quarterback. So why would he be trotting PJ Walker out there trying to throw for 350 yards? Like it just and then that plus his previous record in Arizona, he went 3-13, but the team was a bottom of the league team when he inherited the team and got the job.
You know what that roster was in Arizona?
I was trying to look it up because I kept seeing this online. I was trying to see it online. I'm like, well, who did he have? Because he didn't have. Did he draft? He drafted Josh Rosen. I don't even think he's in the league.
I don't know. I can't remember the whole situation. Was Josh Rosen already there, or did they take him?
I think they drafted him and then hired Wilks. So I'm not even sure if Rosen was his guy. So I think
because if I remember, I want to say that was Josh Rosen's second year.
Yeah,
when Steve got the job, because then they screwed it all up. It was a terrible roster, and then they got the number one pick to get Kyle.
And then that's when they let Wilks go so they could bring in Cliff Kingsbury to pair with him, which everyone
either.
What? They didn't give him a shot. So I mean, I don't know. That's where I am. But of course, we're in the playoffs.
Playoffs? Don't talk about playoffs.
We got to.
You kidding me? Playoffs?
We're right there towards the end. We only got 3 games left in this season. The NFC and AFC championship games. We can kind of get into this a little bit. Before we do that, though, I don't want to leave behind Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys. We're gonna circle back around to this real quick because
yeah, we need to talk about this.
Dak, you got the bag, you got hurt, and then got the bag afterwards. Everybody was happy. First of all, Jerry Jones should have gave him the bag the year before he got hurt, and it would have been way less expensive than it is now. Because now you're gonna have these uncomfortable conversations about Dak. Do you look at Dak and that Joe Burrow, Pat Mahomes?
No.
Josh Allen,
no,
of quarterbacks.
No.
Where do you have him? Because I'm trying to figure this out watching him yesterday.
Ryan Tannehill, Kirk Cousins. That's what we're talking about.
Yeah, Kirk Cousins.
Now Kirk's gotten a whole lot of bags in his career.
Hey,
Kirk's not.
You want to know something?
Someplace.
Didn't Dalton play for the Cowboys? Yeah.
Andy Dalton. Yeah.
I'm
What
hey,
yo.
Cowboys Dalton trade, whatever that looked like, need to happen.
Wow.
Listen,
Aaron
Dak
Rodgers.
Prescott.
Ooh. Would they trade for Aaron Rodgers? Would the Dallas Cowboys trade and reunite Mike McCarthy and Aaron? Ooh.
Yeah, I like that. Boy,
Yeah,
you over there spitting out dreams, ain't you?
And you know Jerry would spend that money because Aaron's gonna be owed like what 60 million. He's got 2 years left on the 3-year extension he signed. He's owed like 60 million next year. I don't even know what it is the year after that. Would Jerry Jones do that?
All right, let's put
Would Jerry Jones do? Would he trade? Like you mean like trade Dak for
trade Dak?
So Dak, Rodgers, McCarthy, Sean Payton.
Wait, what? What just happened? Like, I gotta sit there and think about that because it was brought up. I think Dan Orlovsky brought it up
Because
early
look,
in the morning.
McCarthy got to go. McCarthy
Yeah,
got to
I'm
go.
feeling this McCarthy experiment in
Dak
Dallas.
Prescott definitely needs to be like, look, because I'm a player and I'm gonna always speak from the player side. So I'm not just gonna I'm not gonna say like he got to go, but they need to look at this. They need to look at this in a different way. My man's throwing interceptions like it's like
Didn't he lead the league?
it's turkeys. He's giving them out like turkeys on Thanksgiving. And look,
Salvation Army.
he's played 12 games this year. He's played 12. He played 12 regular season games this year, and he had 15 interceptions.
He's doing weird stuff too. Like they showed the one where he tried to force it to CeeDee Lamb going into the end zone. They showed it like from behind the quarterback, like the line, and T.Y. Hilton is running like just like an out. And there's this huge patch of green in this out there. There's no cover over the top. And T.Y. Hilton is open. All he has to do is just hit him on the inseam.
Yeah.
And he doesn't even look that way. Like he's just on CeeDee Lamb the whole time and tries to force it into two people in the end zone. And it's an incompletion. And I'm just sitting there like, why didn't you see that? Like it's right there. Like everyone sees it. Why can't you see it? You're the quarterback. And he's had those issues. He was drafted in the 4th round for a reason. I know that sounds harsh, but for a starting quarterback in the NFL, it's really rare to get a late round guy be your starter at quarterback. Usually it's a 1st round pick, like more often than not. There's not a lot of Russell Wilsons out there to get drafted in the 3rd round.
Not a lot of Brock Purdy's out there either.
There's not a lot of Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, starting for the team that might win the whole damn thing. Like that don't usually happen. But Dak, I think people try to label Dak when he got the money as a dude that can elevate the team. And I don't think that's him. I think he's a guy. He needs pieces. He needs pieces around him.
He doesn't have that it factor. Like, there's not one area of his game where you're like, okay, that's the advantage that he brings to the table. Like, he just doesn't have it. Like, I don't think you can you can maybe build a team around Dak and win, but he's not going to take you there by himself.
Yeah, and that was painfully clear yesterday. Because he was trying to do it by himself pretty much, especially when they lost Pollard. It was just like, okay, Dak, they're all talking about legacy and all this other stuff. This is it. This game is right there. Can you go down the field in the number 1 defense in the league on the road and win this? And the answer was no. No, I can't. Right. I can't do this. Not by myself. So I don't know. It's just wild to me. Paul actually comes in. We were talking about with the Cardinals. He said Wilkes was hired. Then they drafted quarterback Josh Rosen, as they both only lasted 1 season in Arizona. This was owner Bidwell's last season as owner before passing away, which is now run by his son, Michael. So that might have had a lot to do with why Wilkes only got 1 year too. It wasn't Michael's hire. It was his dad's hire. Also, I believe the Cowboys will move on from Kellen Moore and keep McCarthy for 1 more season. Cowboys were like the highest scoring team in the league, though, weren't they? Like, I don't know if the offense was so much the issue with scoring. It's McCarthy. It's McCarthy. Like, they're not going to win with McCarthy in Dallas.
So here's the question I got for both of you. So you got your 1st round pick, right? Would you send your 1st round pick to New Orleans for Sean Payton, or would you send that 1st round pick and Dak Prescott to Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers? Which one would you rather do?
That means I'm keeping McCarthy as coach.
Mm-hmm.
With the Rodgers.
So you're gonna have McCarthy and Rodgers, but you're gonna give away Dak in a 1st round pick, or you're gonna have Sean Payton and Dak Prescott with no 1st round pick.
Whatever that was, you got to repeat that again. But whatever it is, that got to go.
Dak and a first round pick going to Green Bay for Aaron Rodgers. And Mike McCarthy is, or you trade your first round pick to New Orleans for Sean Payton and you still have Dak.
Will Green Bay trade Aaron Rodgers in the same conference? Because that seems to be the thing. Would they even trade him to Dallas?
But if he doesn't want to be there and he's getting older, what
is he, 36, I think?
He's like 38, I think.
He might be. Actually, let me look that up. Jerry Jones is 105. So, he ain't got time to wait around. He ain't got time to wait around on Dak to figure this out. Or you know what I mean? That's why I'm seriously sitting here would Jerry Jones do that? I think Jerry Jones, if you catch him in a bar late one night and start peppering him with these questions, he might.
And how glad were you guys? How happy were y'all when that kicker finally made?
Oh my God! Look, the one that got blocked. Actually, I think helped him. It was not going to make it. Yeah,
it was all the way wrong.
It was this way, and I think the dude that blocked him was on the other side of the line. He was oh, I hit the what is going on? If he had missed that one, then it was going to be hard times for him the rest of the way. But I think the fact that he saw that it got blocked kind of cleared his mind a little bit. So he made that little 25-footer or 25-yarder, and then he was good to go after that. But man, I've never sat on the edge of my seat for a kicker that did not belong to my own team.
I've seen that much attention, the entire world focused on an extra point.
I felt bad for him. I was like, oh my gosh.
What's crazy about it is it's not like this guy struggled. He was money all season long. And it just
the yips.
Went the hell out.
Worst case of the yips of all time. They literally, it affected Dallas's offense. It literally affected what they were calling, because they could have kicked a field goal a couple of times in that first half and kept going. There was a fourth down that Dak converted with his feet that any other time they would have just trotted out the kicker to kick the field goal. But that was after the block. So it was
and then Dak went through an interception.
Yeah, and then Dak threw an interception. So it was golly. And they didn't even
3 points or interception.
Did they even try out another kicker last week? Because I remember Jones.
I think, but they didn't elevate him.
Dallas. Just Dallas. Now I understand why Stephen A. so hard on him.
I understand Stephen A. completely now.
Jeez.
Jesus.
I was rooting for the Cowboys. I found myself rooting for the Cowboys yesterday.
I was not.
I know Stu was talking about the catch that didn't get, where Schultz didn't get out of bounds on his own, right?
Yeah.
But how about the damn play where he was wide open, nobody within 15 yards of him, and you can't get both feet down?
That's what I'm talking about.
That right there gives you, at least a chance, because now you're at the 40-yard line.
He went through that thing all right.
Oh, Daisy, just he didn't even bother.
Where's your sense of urgency at? Where your coach at? Tell your coach to come here so I can wring him by his neck. Because this is uncalled for, brother.
Is that coaching? You blame the head coach?
Bro, the punt team, the execution, everything execution-wise, it does come down to the player. But stuff like we saw towards the end of that game, the punt team getting on the field, taking 40 seconds to get a punt off, and the time management with Dak and his head coach not spiking the ball after Buddy got ran backwards going out of bounds. Then my man just gotta get his feet down and catch the ball like he trying to catch the ball. Not catching the ball like, oh yeah, baby, I'm looking sweet out here
or something.
This is like pregame. Nah, brother, this is not pregame. This is the game.
And there was no. Did anybody even yell at him for that? Did anybody even come out and
what's crazy is Greg Olsen, bias, best tight end ever. Especially when it comes to these times in the game.
Mm-hmm.
He knows ball. He knows execution. He knows the situations. Like, you put Greg Olsen in a situation like that, I'm pretty sure he's calling this game and just like in his like inner heart, everything within him is just probably like just like itching and scratching because he's like, what is happening? Why is he doing this? Why is he going backwards? Or why is he not tapping his feet? Why is he catching the ball like that?
I'd like to make that. Let's make that happen. I don't know if you've got a way to contact something. I'd like to get Greg on the podcast, like, because I was actually really impressed with his call. I had a couple buddies text me last night saying they didn't like the call, and I was like, "What do you not like about it?" Like, he's being very, he's like the anti-Romo. Instead of like calling stuff before the play happens, and in a way that kind of ruins it after a while when you're watching it. He was really good explaining what happened, like during the play, from the passing game perspective. Like, he's showing you what should have happened, where Dak should have went, like who was actually open, and then why Dak threw it that way, or his guess as to why he threw it that way, I should say. But
like, I would much rather, and I like Tony Romo to a certain extent, but like I would much rather listen to Greg Olsen kind of like break down, like you just said, what's happening than and may like what that may set up for, than rather than, you know, Tony Romo just going, I don't know, Jim. I don't know, Jim. What's going to happen, Tony?
What's going to happen? Watch out for this guy.
How about them Cowboys?
Greg Olsen is becoming a great commentator, says Willie Smith.
Out there balling, man. But he really telling it how it is, though, man. And that's really about to make this whole Dak Prescott thing. Like, Greg Olsen, really, people, the commentating that's going on right now is really about to have the fan base holding these organizations accountable for what they're seeing, because now, like, you can't, like, people on Twitter getting educated, brother. like everybody knows what you're supposed to do now.
Yeah.
Like, hey.
It's not Pat Summerall and John Madden up there giving out turkey legs or whatever. It's like dudes really understand. Like, there's like housewives that understand how to diagnose a play, like, and watch it and can explain to you on Twitter.
Dak, why'd you go from your read so quick? You gotta stay on that a little bit longer,
Paul says, did you guys notice the 49ers CMC was not on the field late in the game? His left calf appeared to be bothering him as they were working on it on the sidelines. I did notice that. It didn't seem to matter because the dude that came in for him, what's the backup running back for the 49ers?
Elijah Mitchell.
He's a problem too. That whole
team. He almost messed the game up for San Francisco too.
He gave Dallas a chance by.
Yeah. He didn't run. Yeah, he ran down the sideline. Yeah.
Just fall down, man.
Yeah, you gotta stay. Coach Skip, my running back coach, like, hey, baby, you gotta stay in bounds. You gotta stay in bounds. You can't go out of bounds. You gotta stay in bounds.
So real quick before we give our predictions for Conference Championship Sunday, before we leave this whole Dallas nonsense, we gotta talk about this last play. This formation that they came out here with, this
trash,
whatever this
offensive coordinator needs to be looked at too.
If y'all haven't seen it, just go to Twitter and look it up. They came out with like Zeke Elliott at center, no one else on the line. They had like 5 dudes up here and like 8 dudes or whatever down here. And like, as soon as the ball is snapped,
didn't the Colts run some type of play like that some years ago?
Yeah.
Against the Patriots, they went under center with, it was like a fake punt or whatever, and they had 2 guys just right around the center, just went whoop.
They didn't even bother to do that with Zeke. They ran through him. Like, they trucked my boy. Like, as soon as he's like,
Zeke, we're gonna get you up there to make you take on one of their best defensive players. He's gonna knock you in the face, and it's gonna be okay.
I'm just like, what was
just
the
get
idea?
Up, and somebody gonna try to hand you the ball.
That's what actually, that was why I was mad too at the end of that game.
Yeah, I'm gonna tell you why we mad.
Not because they did it. I was mad that we weren't treated with what was supposed to happen. Like, I wanted to, what were we supposed to do in this formation? Like, what was supposed to happen? And we got robbed.
You mad at the suspense.
Yeah. They came out with it, and then, because even the 49ers was like, whoa, what is this? What is this? And they call a timeout. They're like, hold on, wait a minute. So 49ers call a timeout. They come right back out, and they're standing in the huddle. I'm like, Lord, no, there's no way they're going to line back up in this format. And they did. And I was like, ooh, okay, let's see what this is. I don't understand why Zeke's at center, but let's go. He's ineligible. Like, what are we doing? And then like 2 seconds later, it's over.
But that's the Dallas Cowboys in a nutshell, though. The most suspenseful team.
Why would
all
you
10.
Zeke?
He's ineligible.
You got all your skill players out there. Why is Zeke at center? Like by himself, there's two 49ers lined over top of him. Like we already know what's about to happen here. And like as soon as he snaps the ball, the one dude just goes like right through him. He on his back like a turtle, like just like, oh no. And then the dude that Zach throws it to, he didn't have no place to go. There was no one near him to pitch it. Like the whole thing was just like, what is this? And it makes it feel like the Cowboys should have lost by 30. Instead, they lost by 7. And
Why
that's
did they have to throw it out to like, I don't even know, just like a little quick like pass out in the flat or something, and just start pitching it around. What was a 7-yard hook gonna do? Like
that's why I'm mad.
There was nobody.
I want to know.
Be all like the pitch and everything. Like there was nobody even there. Like I don't understand where that ball was supposed to go after he caught it. There was nobody around.
We'll never know. We'll never know.
We're gonna blame this on coaching.
Oh
okay?
yeah.
Not blaming this one on Dak.
That had to be that. I mean, that had to be McCarthy, right? Like, okay, guys, we've been practicing this one. Like,
this is the offensive coordinator. Offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. That's your play. That's your special play.
I didn't even know you could do it.
You know what? Now that I think about it, do you guys remember that Kellen Moore was at Boise State when they upset? I think it was Oklahoma.
They did the Statue of Liberty. Yeah,
well, not just that, not that, but the one that ended up either winning the game or giving them the lead was the hook and ladder.
Oh yeah,
and I'm wondering if that was similar to what was supposed to transpire there, but I mean, obviously that was just
like the play at the end of Varsity Blues.
Yeah,
you know what I'm talking about, where you throw it to the wide receiver and he pushes it out, and you have a
Desmond, it's the play that you dream about, where you like tossing it back and it's like continuous. It's a never-ending toss back.
I assume they had Zeke on the line because eventually he was supposed to get one of these tossbacks. I assume, or maybe he's a decoy,
or I don't know, or maybe be forgotten because he got planted in the ground.
One deep into the league.
The policies in the dirt.
This was like when back in the day, Carolina and Kansas played the national championship like in '57 when Wilt Chamberlain was still playing for Kansas. It was like a triple overtime game. Carolina won, went undefeated. But Carolina, mind game wise, sent out like their shortest player for the tip against Wilt. And Wilt is standing there with his hands on his hips, like looking at the dude, just shaking his head, like, what are they doing? Like, it was these mind games, I guess. Maybe that's what they were trying to do with Zeke at center. Like, oh, honestly, what you going to do when we put Zeke at center and we got all our offensive linemen over here? Like, we're just going to do it. We're going to run here and tackle you.
The Little Giants, if you ever watched that movie, The Little Giants, they had a better game plan than the Cowboys did. Just everybody just run in circles.
The annexation of Puerto Rico.
That's exactly what it is.
So we'll find out from the Cowboys. We put up in this episode, we put up a plethora of different possibilities with the Cowboys, with Aaron Rodgers, with Sean Payton, things I wasn't even thinking about before I sat down this morning. Now, hell, you could have Sean Payton and Aaron Rodgers together in Dallas, or maybe not. Maybe you'll have, I don't know. Like there's so much stuff to move around. Well, the one thing we've learned today is that the AFC is loaded with young quarterbacks under the age of 28, and the NFC is not. It's like the league of old extraordinary gentlemen. You got Tom Brady over here, you got Aaron Rodgers over here. You can't put Daniel Jones in that category, or who is it? Who are the young quarterbacks in the NFC?
I mean, Jalen Hurts is pretty much it.
Yeah, Jalen.
Dak's
which, by the way, I can go ahead and tell you my prediction for this weekend.
Yeah, let's go ahead and get them because we're running out of time here. So, first game is the NFC Championship. I think it's at 3:30 on Sunday. Philly hosting the 49ers. These are the two top overall defenses in the entire NFL. San Francisco number 1, Philly number 2. San Francisco's won 11 straight games now. They have not lost a game since they traded for Christian McCaffrey. Hit me.
I'm sad, first of all, that we're not going to get a Philly-Buffalo Super Bowl, because could you imagine the tailgates for that? I mean,
people pile driving, people on tables.
Most rabid fan bases in the NFL. But anyway,
Hospitals will be on call all
Every-
week.
all points, all points. We need you all down here.
I'm going to go with I'm rooting for San Francisco. I really am. I like the story with Brock Purdy. I obviously want to see Christian get in the Super Bowl, but I mean, come on. Like, Philly is just – they're that good. They're loaded. And I feel like we kind of saw it a little bit at some points yesterday, but I think this week we're finally going to see Brock Purdy look like the last pick of the draft.
Okay. All right. I mean, that actually makes a whole lot of sense. I'm surprised we haven't seen it already. Dallas got pretty close, but offense just let them down. Stu, Philly, 49ers. It's in Philly.
I got the 49ers, man. Brock Purdy, Mr. Irrelevant, about to show up and be relevant. C Mac about to, whatever his calf situation is this week, get it nice and loose.
He'll be all right.
Get it right. He'll be all right for the game.
He'll be all right.
Couple Panthers.
I think the Eagles are gonna definitely get after Brock Purdy, but I think after this past week, playing against the Dallas Cowboys, and how that game went for him, and how patient he had to be, he didn't make any mistakes, and so he didn't cough the ball up. And I think if he has that same mentality going into preparation this week, with the guys that he has around him, like, that's the thing. He's got a lot of weapons, and I feel like what we saw Philly do to the Giants, they ain't got no talent like that. Okay, so especially in the receiving core, you got Saquon. That's the only person that really sets any standard of talent that you don't see often. So I think what we're going to see from the Philadelphia Eagles is a D line that's going to get after it, but a secondary that's going to struggle. That's my opinion.
I'm gonna go with the 49ers too on this one. I don't think it matters if Brock Purdy's the quarterback. He can give you a big game, but he can also game manage too with the talent around him. If they've got Deebo Samuel and Christian McCaffrey and George Kittle and Brandon Ayuk, I'm running out of fingers. Like, there's so many skill players, and I thought Dallas kind of had it under control, but that game kind of showed me you can't really control this for 4 quarters. Like, if 49ers decide to go down the field on you, they can do it in so many ways. And Kyle Shanahan is just calling great offensive football right now. Like, he's just understanding spacing, routes, who he has. Like, he's using everybody the correct way. And I haven't really trusted Philly all year. I've been on record with that on this show. Like, I just haven't trusted them for some reason. I think if they didn't play the Giants this weekend, they might have been in some trouble. But
think about how thick that San Francisco offense is. Like, you probably have the second best tight end in the league.
Mm-hmm.
Then you have a receiver who's probably better than most starting running backs at running back, and then you have one of the best running backs that's probably better than most receivers at receiver. Like,
how do you defend that? Like McCaffrey, McCaffrey's probably a top 3 running back in the league, and he runs routes better than most.
He's probably a top 20, 25 receiver, and Deebo Samuel's probably a top 20, 25 running back.
Yeah. So
and Ayuk runs routes that just gets him open.
Yeah.
Like,
dude is like stupid fast.
Yeah. And Kittle's got that personality, like, that we've seen kind of from Gronk and others, like, now that tight end position. I think he's having fun. Gronk was bigger, but yeah, maybe. Now, is he better than Kelsey? I don't think so. But I don't know. Actually, that's a good question. Actually,
I think he doesn't get as many looks
because of all the other things around him. Yeah, Kelsey is like the safety valve for Mahomes. Like, the play can break down, he's going to find Kelsey for 20 yards out and convert it or whatever. And Kittle hadn't really had to do that yet. I'm going to go 49ers too, because I think that's a sexier matchup in the Super Bowl. 49ers versus whoever comes out of the AFC. I'm leaning whoever comes out of the AFC is going to win the whole thing, but I'm going to pick the 49ers. They're just playing too well right now. Go with the hot team in the NFL. Go with the hot team in January. The 49ers are the hottest team in the league. They've won every way imaginable. They've blown people out. They've grounded out. They've won with multiple quarterbacks. They're pretty healthy, and they know who they are. They have an identity. I'm going to go with the 49ers.
So we know your AFC pick then, if you're going with the hottest team.
Yeah, I mean, and Lord knows, look, I've been saying it on this show too. Don't trust the Bengals 2 years in a row. And I should have known when I said that way back when we first made our division picks back in August that it would come back to bite me in the ass and the Bengals would be the hottest team in the AFC by the time we got to January. And that's exactly what's happened. Like, I can't find a hole in this Bengal team right now. Like,
yeah.
And they got the local thing too. There's like 3 guys on that team that played high school up here near me for teams that I call for. So it's kind of like, but it's still the Bengals. It's the Bengals. Like, it doesn't feel right. It just feels wrong. But I'm kind of tired of the Chiefs being there at this point. They're kind of turning into the Patriots in terms of they just seem like they're there every year.
I like the Chiefs getting there. It's fun. The offense is fun, but I mean,
yeah, I think Coach Lou gonna have that boy. He saw that game and Patrick Mahomes
coming
to play with hopping around
that nub, not a nub, but like at the end of the day, Patrick Mahomes is going to be different. Okay, when it comes to game time.
Now, where do you think he'll be by Sunday, health wise, percentage wise, like on a high ankle sprain?
70, if that,
60. Like this past game that he played in with that. He was probably 30. He might be 60.
Lord, that was
maybe not. I actually no. Like when he wakes up game day morning, he's gonna feel terrible. But he's gonna have to get his mind, his body, like ready to like just gut it out.
You have to tape that thing.
He's gonna have to tape it up, and he's not gonna be as mobile. And I think that's gonna fall into Lou's like lap. The defensive coordinator for the Cincinnati Bengals. He did it last year. He gonna do it again.
Cincinnati owns the Chiefs too. Like they're 3-0 against them the past 3 times they played, and I think 2 of those were at Arrowhead. So I mean, it's not like the Bengals are scared of the Chiefs or in awe of them or anything. Like they feel like they're a better team, and it felt like that when they were watching warm-ups in Buffalo. It felt like the Bengals felt like they were the better team. We got the better quarterback. We have the better team. We're about to show you. We don't care we're in Buffalo. We don't care it's snowing. Like, we're about to show you that what we are. And I feel like they're carrying that swagger of that quarterback with them. And now it's like, we said on here, confidence with a young team. And the NFL is the scariest thing in the world for a young team to figure out, oh, we can play this game. We can actually beat whoever we want when we want to do it. Cincinnati's there. The Chiefs,
they wounded right now, man.
But they're wounded. Yeah. I'm picking Bengals.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Bengals too. I think if Mahomes is healthy, if Mahomes is 100%, I would probably go Kansas City. But I just can't.
Yeah, I think that's what's making me go that way too, because it's an Arrowhead too. Has he ever played a conference championship game outside of Arrowhead? I think every time it's been at Arrowhead.
Have you ever played a playoff game outside of Arrowhead? Outside of the Super
I don't think so, actually. I think all of them have been at home. Because even the Patriots win when Brady's last year in 2019, it was at Arrowhead. So I don't think Mahomes has ever had to leave Arrowhead. That's interesting in itself. Paul says 2 hottest teams in the NFL, 49ers and Bengals. That's a old school rematch of previous Super Bowls too. If that happens, 49ers and the Bengals. I could see Joe Burrow winning the Super Bowl this year. The Cincinnati Bengals could be the Super Bowl champs, and it would not seem weird at all. I can't.
Go Joey Smooth, man.
Yeah, you're gonna be sitting there going,
"Woo, yeah, man!" I love it too. It's just how good was that LSU team? Like looking back on it now, like
very, very good.
Burrow, Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase. Terrence Marshall was like the 3rd wide receiver on that team. I mean, good Lord. The dude threw 60 touchdowns in what, like 12 games, 13 games or something nuts? So we shouldn't be surprised by any of this because all those players off that team have taken the NFL by storm. So, so I guess so. Do we all agree? 49ers Bengals? We all went the same way?
Yeah.
I want Eagles. Eagles.
Oh, you picked the
Yeah,
Eagles.
he went Eagles.
I'm gonna put that up. So you got Eagles, Bengals. That's a
Yep.
all right. So we'll see.
Redden, Bradbury.
Yeah, shout out to James Bradbury.
Yeah, shout out to James.
Anybody? Well, Paul wants to know real quick before we get out of here. Panthers #1 pick at number 9. I'm not sure what he's asking.
Yeah,
If he's asking.
they have the 9th pick. If that's where you're at.
If the first round, our first round pick is 9 as it stands today, unless David Tepper decides to give it to New Orleans, which I don't think would make a lick of sense at all. But
yeah, just go ahead and give it to them. Is that where they can draft their next quarterback?
yeah, let's watch Bryce Young kill us for a decade, so we can have Sean Payton for 2 years and then decide to retire again and go back to the Saints or something nuts. That's what would happen. He'd come here and be like, "This was a whole master plan by the Saints to just destroy the Panthers from within. I'm gonna come over for a year and be like, you know what? I want to retire anyway."
So we're gonna have a mole over here through the transaction.
If New Orleans gets the number 9 pick from the Panthers, I'm telling you right now, they're not going to stay at number 9. They will move up inside the top 5 to draft CJ Stroud.
Jeez, should we?
I would go as high as 5, no higher.
I feel like it'll drop to 9 in the way this is rolling. But somebody always does. Someone's always going to drop that ain't supposed to. I don't know. We'll get into all that. We got draft stuff coming up after playoffs are done. Finally, Willis, when's the earliest you think Panther fans will have an answer on a coach? When do you think that time window is, Schuyler? Because I'm thinking maybe the week after the Super Bowl, if not earlier.
I would say probably next week would probably be the earliest. I don't see anything happening this week, but you got to be careful with it because, obviously Shane Steichen is a guy that's been interviewed by multiple teams. Youre Evero, same thing. Like, there's a lot of common guys here. So I think they want to get their guy. I would say probably earliest next week, but I don't think so.
Dominoes are going to start falling because, in case y'all haven't noticed, no other vacancy has been filled either. Like, it's not just the Panthers. All of them are still open. Broncos.
Ben Johnson threw a major wrench into all of that.
Yeah, I think so too. And then the whole Payton being into this and then Harbaugh backing out. I think a lot of the stuff might have been settled earlier, but it is
There's a lot of moving pieces that didn't really move, which has kind of made everything kind of haywire.
So we'll, of course, we're your source for that. We'll keep you updated on that as well. If something breaks in the middle of the week or something, once they do decide what they're doing, we'll come in and we'll give you the lowdown on everything with that. We're still kind of on the schedule doing this early in the week. We might start doing some later week stuff once the season's over because we'll have stuff to talk about with the draft. Really interested in kind of start bringing in some like former players, beat writers like we did last week with Joe Person, commentators, just to kind of comment on what the state of the franchise basically, so you can hear from different voices from us since it'll be in the off season. But we'll give you all that you need, Panther news and notes and everything else. Shout out to Bet Online. Go over there, betonline.ag. Get that welcome bonus, Bleav, with the promo code BLEAV. You can get that right now, so definitely go check that out. This will be up. Audio version of this will be up a little bit later on today. The video is always available at youtube.com/Tobacco Road Sports Radio. Follow Schuyler for the latest too on Twitter, beat writer for the Panthers for Sports Illustrated. If anything breaks, you can follow that over at Callihan _. You can probably get it from him, first. But again, I don't know if something's going to happen before the season's officially over because there's candidates that are still coaching on these teams that haven't been able to do anything but virtual stuff really. So we'll
quick plug here. I just did a article, pros and cons of the Panthers getting Sean Payton. It'll be out probably in the next half hour. So
go follow at Callihan or at Callihan _ so you can get that. We don't want Sean Payton. We don't want him. Go
Wilkes.
Yeah, Team Wilkes over here, baby. So still rooting for him. We'll see what happens. But that's been another Bleav in Carolina Panthers podcast. We'll be back next week unless something freaky happens between now and then with the coaching search. So we're just keeping everything up and open. If not, we'll see you next Monday. For Jonathan Stewart, Schuyler Callihan, I'm Desmond Johnson. Keep pounding, y'all.